Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future.
Welcome to Sterling Insights Supercharge Your Assets podcast. This is Charles Trakas, guest host, here with MC Laubscher. He is the founder and wealth strategist for Producers Wealth. I was looking over your background, and it seems like you originally started from South Africa. What brought you to the United States?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to our conversation. So I, as you mentioned, grew up in South Africa during a very interesting time in the country's history. I was a young man when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and 3 years later, ran for president, became president of South Africa. So during that time, there was a lot of uncertainty. People didn't know what was happening the next 24 hours to 48, the end of the week, the month. So how do you plan for that? Now looking back, pretty much it was a gift. What do you do in times of uncertainty? What do you do in times where the future isn't clear, right? You can't see clearly ahead down the road to plan for it. And it's really helped me, just as a business owner, as an investor. But how I ended up in the United States, this young lad came in 2001 with a backpack, a suitcase, so a sense of humor and a sense of adventure. I actually played in a rugby league here up until 2007. So I traveled a bit around the world after graduating university in South Africa. And there was a rugby league here in the United States that I played in, and it was a blast. And, being privileged to see other areas and other countries and travel quite a bit, when I ended up in the United States, I was like, man, do these people realize that they won the lottery just by being born here? The opportunity here is I don't think people still realize in the United States how much opportunity is here. There's no cap on upward mobility. How many rags to riches stories do you have of people growing up in, the worst neighborhood in the Bronx in New York and become a billionaire like Damon John? That doesn't happen everywhere else in the world. I don't think people understand that.
I have a lot of clients that are blue collar that are very wealthy.
Oh, if you want to build wealth and then also protect wealth, I can't think of a better place in the world to do it. Just as far as everything that's in place here, you're off to the races, really. How I looked at it is, I just got to come here and bring my A game. I just got to bring my best ideas, my work ethic, and obviously being an immigrant, we all know about the immigrant work ethic. Work your butt off and try and build your dream, and you can really do it here. When I was playing in that rugby league in the United States up till 2007, I was one of those guys on the team bus and the team plane that was reading business books and investing books. So instead of the card games, which, I participated from time to time, but, I did some studying. I dove into all these books, and I came across Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, one of the personal finance books, best-selling personal finance books of all time. The book changed the way that I looked at things. It changed my paradigm, but I'm one of those guys too that takes action. I think that's actually when the learning happens, right? You get an idea, you execute on it, and now you're learning because you're actually doing it. So I bought a property, real estate, single family. I put some tenants in it. I collected rent. I paid all the bills, and then there was money left over at the end of the month. And I'm like, whoa, this is just like the book. This is incredible. So that cash flow thing really stuck with me. And, my philosophy is I don't think you have to read 1,000 books. You can read 10 books 1,000 times and get really more from it. So you need the right books. That's one of the right books because I've actually read it and reread it every single year. So I've read it 25 times. And every single time I've read it, something came out for me out of just reading it. So the first time was cash flow. And then you get into the tax game, which it's literally just a game, and the rule book is the IRS code. And the game is to pay as little legally in taxes as you can, because they tell you how to do it. That is literally the IRS book. Here's a book that tells you how to pay the least amount of taxes, little to almost nothing legally. So there you go play the game. And then, about the fourth time I reread it, there's these overly simplified financial statements in it. Rugby guys that got clobbered up against the head a lot of times, we can even make sense of it. And I look at this and I said, all these liabilities that are on my balance sheet, they're someone else's asset. And it's, listen, good debt, structured well, managed well. If you know what you're doing, you can leverage that to buy real estate and build wealth that way. But for the most part, I looked at that as kind of like an eyesore. Whose is it? It's the banks. The bank, all of the liabilities that you have, it's the bank's assets. And I'm like, man, these banks really have the game figured out. Like we play the game and we're all pieces on it. And even as real estate investors and so forth and business owners, your piece is on the board, but who's the board? The board is the banks and the banking system and the system that they've created. And that's really when my journey started to go into the direction of what I'm up to today, because I figured out, like, man, I've got to figure out how to become my own bank. And then as life will have it, things happen in threes. So the first thing was that light bulb. Man, the banks are the board, literally the board of the game. And the second piece to that was I came across a book called Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, who became a mentor of mine. The third piece was I had a couple of loggers with a rugby buddy of mine. We were introduced to each other through the network. He was a real estate guy. And it turns out that he came from one of the wealthiest families in the north side of the city of Chicago, real estate families. And he shared with me their strategy of having operating businesses, generating the income for the family, positioning that in their own family banking system, and then leveraging that to buy real estate and do it over and over again. And I'm like, wow, this whole world just opened up, in front of me. And that's kind of the strategies that we help our clients with in all 50 states with Producers Wealth. This is our 10th year in business, and we're still having a lot of fun helping business owners figure out cash flow management, be their own bank, and also just structure things properly so that they always have access to capital to run their business and grow their businesses.
And I mean, what a great story, starting in South Africa, coming here. I mean, like you said, the land of opportunity, and you jump into the financial services industry. And what you're doing is helping business owners increase their company's value and continue the business. And let's be a little more specific. How are you doing that? I know you had talked about banking, but let's get a little deeper. Explain how you're really helping. Give me an example of one of the business owners that you've helped.
Yeah, great question. So if you think about a bank, right? When you deposit money in a bank, whether you save it, you spend it, or you invest it, the bank makes money. And if you go to that same bank and you apply for a loan, whether you use that loan to fly down to Vegas and party and spend it, or whether you invest it, or whether you just save the money, the bank still makes money. So specifically, how do we do it? We use a strategy called infinite banking. Infinite banking is a strategy where you just have a vehicle. So we use life insurance, overfunded high cash value life insurance, structured just like they do in family offices, where you would position capital in. Now, for the business owner, how do we help business owners? And this, I'll bring this together with infinite banking and just share an example. When business owners start their business, right, they go through this phase where first you're all in, right? Resources, money, unless you were born with a silver spoon or you come from a rich family. For the most part, we're all in because you have to be, so everything is in: time, energy, resources. You look like a broke person on paper. Then the first thing that happens is you don't go BK. You don't go bankrupt. You survive. You're like, I don't know how this happened, but it survived. The second thing that happens is the business becomes profitable. Now, you don't look like a good prospect for any financial advisor when you're just starting out because you look like a broke person on paper. Then when you start to grow, the business grows, it's profitable. Now, all of a sudden, you do look like a good prospect. And the first piece of advice that they would give you is you have to diversify, which is not bad advice at all. The diversification strategy that they teach is give me the money, I'll put it for you in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and manage it for you. Again, not a bad strategy at all, but not the right thing at that stage for the business owner. Why? Because number one, the business owner has now lost control of the money. They don't have control over that anymore. They can't access it to manage their company or run their business. The second thing is it's kind of comical. They now have invested in other people's businesses. They're giving liquidity to other people's businesses. So I love Apple. I love Tim Cook. I've got all the Apple gadgets and products. They don't need my money. My business needs my money. And I'll use another example. My fellow South African Elon Musk, Tesla doesn't need my money. He's got enough of that to run his business. My own business needs my money, right?
Right.
So, and then the third thing becomes to turbo boost your assets. What's your best investment at that point? Especially like an early business, it's your own business. I haven't seen anybody generating an average rate of return of 8% in their business at that point of the business growth. It's like 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, sometimes 100% growth, which you could never, ever get anywhere else. So what do? We go to the business owner and say, look, you should diversify. You shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. That's not bad advice, but where do you put it so that you still have control over it? You can access it at any time as a bucket of cash to manage your business and then also grow your business. So we use the vehicle of life insurance. It's not inside the business, it's outside. So the business owner now has his own bank that he's depositing money in. You've got, 80% of the premiums going straight to savings, which they can access right away. So now for the business owner in the 4 seasons of cash flow, because this happens to all of our clients, is the 4 seasons of cash flow is, like summer is your highest revenue season. Not hard to run a business when the money's just coming in, not hard to run a business. Opposite of that is winter, lowest rev, much, much, much more challenging. So you've got the heights of the summer, it slows down into the fall, it goes into the winter. How do you get to the spring and back to the summer? Well, there's a couple of things that you have to do. New marketing campaigns, new products, new services. Maybe there's a continuity program you're rolling out. You got to come up with all these things. Unfortunately, they all cost money and you have to run your business. So now if you didn't have infinite banking or this vehicle, what do? You go to the bank and get a proctology exam and they'll give you a line of credit with double-digit interest and that's going to hover over you like a dark cloud, right? If you have infinite banking set up, you've got a bucket to just access the cash and reinvest in your business and grow it and grow and scale it. Whether you want to bring in technology, run payroll, hire new employees, and that new marketing campaign that you launch in the winter brings you into the spring and back to the summer. So that's kind of what we do is look at a business owner, look at how they're set up. We also do tax coordination. We've shown to save business owners significant amount of capital just through tax savings through 1 or 2 or 3 moves. And then that frees up more capital to put into a system to fuel and feed your business and grow your business.
Yeah. What does it mean to you when you're able to help these folks?
I'm extremely passionate about this because this is the one thing. If I could choose the one thing that's made all the difference in my life is this strategy. This is the one thing I could count on. During the pandemic, my wife and I was sitting together. Everybody almost have blocked this out because it's trauma. It was collective trauma we experienced. But I still remember it was like a Wednesday or something that they said, regardless of the state that you're in, but they're like, by Friday, everything's shut down, right? So Friday night, we have a glass of wine and we chat. And we were like, okay, so what's happening to the real estate investments that we're in? I'm like, well, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get money. Remember, this was before all the bailouts and the money that was plethora of money, cash that was thrown at the economy. Nobody knew what was going on. So I'm like, well, people are not going to go to work, so they're not going to make money. So I don't know if they're going to pay rent, right? Okay, so that one's out the window. What about some of the resorts that we're investors in? Well, they're all shut down. So that's that. Hey, how about those oil and gas investments that we've done? Well, oil is at negative right now, not even like at zero. You would actually have to pay someone to take oil at that stage. It was kind of like we started laughing because it was so comical. The one thing, though, what about the life insurance? Still there. Every single cent, structured correctly, a supercharged savings account, it's right there. So even in a time like that, I had to access capital at that stage too, because there was an investment that I wanted to fund. I was able to get capital as all these companies were basically going virtual, and I was still able to get capital through a policy loan. So it's the one thing that provides certainty in uncertain areas. And I mean, I use an extreme example because, who knows if we ever live through that one again? Probably not in our lifetime. But even during that time, it was there. What motivates me is once we set this up and business owners have that, they have clarity, they have certainty, they have predictability. It takes a lot of unknown variables off the table. Now you can focus on your business to just grow your business, take care of your employees, and take care of your family. So that's why I'm passionate about it, because it's made this huge difference in my life. And I see it every day making a massive difference in all of our clients' lives.
And you said you see it, and I experience it. I do the same thing, overfund life insurance policies, clients and business owners. I actually had one client come to me and say, hey, we just found a second home in Key West, but I just got $1 million loan for this other property for business, and I'm kind of at a certain point, but we really like to get it. And I said, hey, let's call the insurance company. Long story short, he took out $52,000 tax free. It was his cost basis, and they bought the house in Key West.
Yep.
It's so powerful, and they were 48 years old. So there's no limitations, like you said. One thing that I want everybody to hear, what are some of the common misconceptions in this industry and doing infinite banking? Because I've known it, it's been around forever.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's many of them, and I think with social media these days too, things are so, it's off the wall. It's,
You got to believe it. It's on the internet.
Yeah, because the thing is, though, too, it becomes a contest for who could do the craziest stuff. I mean, remember when we used to see the guy with the shooting, he's like shooting money, the money gun. And
Yeah.
that was wild. I mean, that's so 5 years ago. That the guy with the money gun can't even get attention right now. So I would say that, it becomes a one-up, right? Everybody has to one-up each other, one-up each other. It's more bold, like ridiculous statements, over-exaggeration, things that just aren't true. So, life insurance in general has, think about insurance. I don't like paying my property and casualty insurance, but I do it because if I am in an accident, then I have it. But what happens even if you are, right? Your premiums go up. So it has a very bad taste in people's mouth, just the term insurance. It's almost like a 4-letter word. So then it becomes, the whole insurance part of it too, and how it's sold to the general public is somebody has to die in order for someone else to benefit. They don't understand that there's an entire strategy that's been around for 170 years that you could use the living benefits of life insurance. And then Dave Ramsey, of course, there's different types of insurance sold to different demographics. He's one of the guys that people would say, well, Dave Ramsey says X, Y, and Z. And it's, I always say that there's two sides of a coin. And sometimes there's three, but you got to look at the whole coin, right? So I could see that if he's making claims saying it's a terrible place to park cash and, the agents are overpaid and X1 and all this stuff, I would look at that and say, okay, I could see your side of the coin. I can see your arguments, but let me ask you this. If it's such a terrible place, why do family offices buy as much as this as they possibly can?
Why do corporations overfund it with their executives? Why does the government allow it to happen? See,
Exactly.
I'm not trying to talk bad about Ramsey or Susie Orman, but they're just
Yeah.
selling. They're just selling. They don't, buy term and invest the difference. It's almost as bad as Citigroup or whatever it was. But no, I'm with you. I have a lot of clients with a lot of money in life insurance, and they basically got the world. They can do whatever they want with it when they want. And you're right. It is now an act. Okay. Before it was always, well, it's not me. My family's going to benefit when I die. And it's so wrong because there's money that you can get to tax free. There's, like you said, living benefits. I'm diagnosed terminal illness, expect to die in less than 12 months. You can go get a big chunk of that money. Chronic care, basically long-term care. You can get a big chunk of that money, instead of buying a long-term care policy. Pay your auto insurance for all your life and never get in an accident, right? How happy are you going to be at the end? Not too happy. Hey,
Yeah.
tell me a story of something going wrong and something going right.
We're going to start with something going wrong. Where do we start? Yeah. I've made a lot of mistakes. Starting as a real estate investor, going into financial services, pairing my experience of real estate investing and starting businesses and failing businesses. But I think where things go wrong is when you don't understand what you're doing, understand what you're investing in, and understand what this is supposed to be doing for you. If it's just another doggy coin that is a shooting star and you want to be a gazillionaire overnight, you don't answer that questions of what do you understand it? What is it? Where does it fit into your portfolio? What is it supposed to do for you? What does it look like? What's your exit, right?
Yeah.
Where things could go really, really sideways. And the other thing too is doing your own due diligence. A lot of times for me personally is when I just trusted that someone else did the due diligence on something, and then I'm going to get spanked because of that. One thing that the things that go right in life is the things that you have control over. So your mindset, getting up, working out, getting the right state, like Tony Robbins talks about, which is just your aura, your positive energy and what you're doing. And then also not giving up. That's the other thing, that rugby's taught me. So you do have control over that. I jokingly sometimes tell my wife, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm just too stupid, but I just don't give up and I'll figure out a way to do it. And, that's where I end up there or end up where I end up, right?
No, I'm with you. Where we hear we're too loyal and stupid.
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge?
There's a couple. I would say the biggest challenge for me right now, probably everything is a people problem in life. It really is. If you think about business, your overall financial strategy, it's a people problem. So it's either a lack of people or the wrong people. So for the biggest challenges that I look at, it's always a people problem. And it's not these people are the problem and I'm not the problem. That's not what I'm saying. It's easy to figure out. It's like, if there's something wrong in your company, do you have the right people in the right seats? Maybe you have the right people in the wrong seats. And then from a financial strategy kind of standpoint, do you have the right people? You might have people, but maybe you need someone with a little bit more expertise in a certain area, whether it be tax planning, CPA, legal, insurance, financial management, RIA kind of stuff. I always try to figure out what people problem am I looking at? The wrong people, the right people in the wrong seats, or is there another skill that I'm missing or something like that?
What do you like best about what you do?
People. after saying
back to
your
the
biggest
right back to
challenge
the
is
people.
Yeah, I would say that the conversations that you have, I love to learn, so I'm a lifelong learner. Just love to continue to learn and new things and learn stuff about people and their experiences. So I love the conversations that I have. I love the different types of things that people do. There's this old book, I don't know if you remember it. I don't know if it's around anymore either. I don't think I've seen it, but it's this children's book that my wife actually saved hers from when she was a kid. And it says, what do people do all day? And it's just pages after pages of everything that people get up. And I think this book is like from the late 70s or early 80s or something. But in my business, it's like, what do people do all day? What do they get up to? What business do you have? It's fascinating. the stuff that people do for a living and all the different little parts of the economy, right? So I love those conversations, and I love seeing other people, the challenges that they have, and then also, the opportunities that they see too.
Hey, MC, where can we find you?
Producerswealth.com. But if they're interested, I've got a couple of books. I think the easiest one to remember is Get Wealthy for Sure, getwealthyforsure.com. If they want a free copy just of the book, Get Wealthy for Sure, the #1 financial strategy for business owners to multiply wealth predictably. So that's at getwealthyforsure.com.
Producerswealth.com. I see the book above your shoulder on the left shoulder.
Oh, yeah, with Atlas.
Yes, the blue one. Right. No, that is perfect. MC, I want to thank you and everyone for watching or listening to the Sterling Insights Supercharge Your Assets podcast. Thank you for being on board, MC.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.